Hey guys, how's it going? Today we've got 3 things in our lineup. First, I'd like to give you an update on all the tulip and daffodil bulbs that we've recently dug out of the cut flower garden. They're all in the studio, so I'll just show you what they look like and share what we're going to do next with those. Second, we've got a box full of seeds we're going to plant in those 4 rows that the bulbs came out of. We've got zinnias, cosmos, and sunflowers. And third, we are going to be planting more annuals, mostly to get this one in the ground. This is the Supertunia Mini Vista Yellow. This is the 2025 Annual of the Year. And we've grown this one for a couple of years. In fact, last year, and I'm sure we have video or at least pictures of where we put it, it was along one of our stone walkways up in front of our house. I mass planted this along with I think it was a Superbena Imperial Blue, and it was so beautiful. And I was so blown away by how productive the plant was. But usually we like to plant whatever the plants of the year are going to be the next year. We like to plant those the previous year just to get some experience under our belts if we don't have experience already. In this case I do, but that way we can share with you before it's like really readily available. Usually those plants of the year are easy to find. That way you can kind of know what to expect those plants to do in your own space. But I thought it would look pretty to possibly put these together. We've got the Angelonia. This is the Angel Face White, Supertunia Vista Jazzberry, and Supertunia Vista Snowdrift. It's kind of a bright, beautiful blend. So that is what is before us today. We're gonna head into the studio first to take a look at all the bulbs. Here they are. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna turn the fan off really quick just in case that's a little bit too loud. So we've got quite the pile going on here. The crates right here were just dug up this morning, so you can see kind of the state of the leaves, what they look like. It was actually good that we weren't able to get to them until now because they were able to soak in more energy. Usually you want them to look like that before you dig them out. But these over here are some of the bulbs that both myself and Paul and Bethany dug week before last. So they've had a chance to sit in their crates just like these for, I want to say they sat for a little over a week to dry down. And then we came through, removed the tops, removed the roots, and this is what we're left with. But we are left with so many more than we started with. Not all of them are huge, but we were left with the originals plus a bunch of offsets. And look at these daffodil bulbs. Oh my gosh, they look amazing. This isn't the way we typically treat our bulbs. Usually like tulips and daffodils, we garden in a zone 6. We plant them in the ground and then they just stay there. Daffodils are really good about returning and naturalizing, like they spread themselves around and you can see what they do. You know, they start off with their original bulb and then they create these little offsets right here and they just eventually spread and fill in a space. Tulips in our area aren't as reliable in that way. Some varieties are, but in this case, I had them in our cut flower garden and I didn't want to keep them in the same spot. One, I wanted to lift them so that we could plant other things on top of them. I suppose we could have just seeded right over the top of these and let these come up right where they were, but we are planning to reconfigure the cut flower garden anyway. So I thought, you know what, we could lift these, store them for a few months. We're right now at the end of June. We'll be planting these again like end of September, beginning of October. So they'll only need to sit in here for maybe 3-ish months. And that way we have the flexibility to move them around to different areas. Here's the deal. I don't think I would do this again because this was a lot like digging dahlia tubers, a lot like it. They rooted in so deeply. And I was very surprised about that because the way we planted them was an experiment to begin with. You know, we didn't dig them down into the ground. We just laid them on top of the soil and then piled compost on top. So in my mind, I thought we were just gonna be able to like walk along and pull these bulbs out really easily. Well, they created huge roots and rooted in so deeply that it was a lot of work to lift them. So I don't know that it's something that I would necessarily do again or set out to do again, but it is still a fun experiment. Now, ideally, you would store these in single layers, like with maybe peat moss or something in between all the bulbs so that they didn't touch because they don't rot quite as easily that way. You do want to make sure they're dried down properly, which these have. Those aren't ready yet, like the ones especially with green still in their leaves. They'll need a chance to dry down. Hey.
Hello.
Are you here to do some work?
Yeah.
Nice. But I think that that would take a whole lot more space to do it that way. So what we're going to do is dust these all with like a dusting sulfur, which helps prevent rot as well. And I'm just gonna leave them in paper bags here in the studio. We will organize them differently. They won't be just in a pile sitting here, but they like to be stored for summer storage in an area between 50 and 70. So nowhere below 50, nowhere above 70. Once we're ready to plant them in the ground, they'll be planted, and then they'll have plenty of time through the winter to get their cold treatment before, you know, they need to come up next spring and bloom again. But they are just grew beautifully. I'm really quite pleased. So just as a look over them, you can see all these already in bags. And then we've got all of these in crates. I mean, the crates aren't full, but each one of these crates represents a different variety. Oh my goodness. Whoa, it's a daffodil. And then we've got all these crates to let dry down, and then we'll do the same thing in that we'll take off the leaves and roots and put them in bags like these. Enjoy the air conditioning.
I will.
Do you want to come plant some seeds with me?
I got so much work to do.
Okay. And Paul is actually out running errands, and he's grabbing some dusting sulfur this afternoon. So we'll get to that project later. I just wanted to show you what they look like and kind of what our process is. It is an experiment for us. I've never stored them over the course of a summer before, but now I know it takes all the way until the end of June for them to really be ready to come out of the ground. That's a long time to dedicate space to in a cut flower garden situation. You know what, before we head out into the sun, I thought I would go through some of the varieties of seed we're gonna plant. So with those 4 rows, they are 60 feet long each. I think I'm gonna do 1 row in sunspot sunflowers, which are real short growing. I think they grow like between 3 and 4 feet. They don't need to be staked or anything like that because they're just so stout. They're such strong sunflowers. So we're gonna do 1 row of those, 1 row of cosmos, which I've got a whole bunch of varieties. And I don't think I'm gonna label anything today because I'm just not into that this year. I think I'm just gonna scatter seeds and enjoy pretty flowers. That's what it's about this year for me. I've got some real pretty ones like Double Dutch Rose, Afternoon White, Cupcakes Blush is a pretty one, Rubenza Apricota, and then I've got a bulk bag of Sensation Cosmos. And then for zinnias, I do have a bunch of the zinnias from Florette that she sent out. They're very similar. Like, I don't think I would even be able to tell the difference between these once they're in the ground. So I think I'm going to plant them all together sort of in the same spot. And then I've got a whole bunch of other ones. Peruviana, the Redmond Super Cactus. We've got Pink Senorita. I've got a ton of California Giants. Like, there's 3 ounces of them right there. And those are just a real fun, colorful blend. I've also got like Queen Lime Blush and Queen Lime, is it Queen Lime Orange, Queen Lime Red? I don't know, I've got a bunch of those. And then creamy yellow giant dahlia flowered zinnias are so pretty. So I just kind of want to mix them together and spread them out there. I think it's just going to be a fun riot of color. So let's head out. I will show you what I'm going to put in each row, and then we're just going to go after it. Shouldn't take us too long. Okay, here we are. So we've got the 4 rows. They all have drip tape already in them. They're already loaded up with compost because that dark color of soil that you see there, that is 100% compost that we put over the bulbs. So that soil is plenty charged enough. We're just planting straight in that. You can see right to the right here, we have our row of ranunculus and anemones / snapdragons from previous years. Look at this. They just seed themselves and come back up in here. There's bells of Ireland in here and some larkspur down the way. And this row we need to let die back just like we did the bulbs. So all of the ranunculus need to completely yellow and die back. Some of them are well on their way, but we'll need to do that before we dig those. And that's one of the reasons why I am leaning toward planting boxwoods around these quadrants and maybe even in the middle of them, really making this area a bit more formal because I like formal gardens a lot, but also I can plant all of these things and let them die back all the way without really having to look at them because they'll be inside boxwood hedging. So as you drive by, you won't see the mess. You'll only be able to see the beautiful flowers kind of peeking above the boxwoods when they're in bloom. And a lot of the flowers that we grow are much taller than the boxwoods would ever get. So many of them you will see all the time, but I just love the idea of being able to mask those things and let them get the time they need to recharge and be ready for the next year before we yank them out of the ground. So here's what I'm thinking. The sunflowers and the cosmos, sunflowers here, cosmos here, are going to probably be similar in height. And then probably the California Giant zinnias. And then in this row, we'll do some of our specialty varieties like the florettes, and then maybe some of our other queen limes. And I think they'll fill in this area beautifully. I actually love planting a later crop of zinnias and cosmos because they look fresher until the very end of the year. Usually my earlier crop, if I get to, planting in May, those are really looking tired by the end of summer, and my later crops are always just looking prime at the end of summer. So it's kind of fun to have a little staggered if you do it that way. I'm not staggering anything because I have no zinnias or cosmos in here yet. Been sort of a strange year. But seed depth on these, the cosmos usually about 1/8 to a 1/4 inch deep, zinnias 1/4 inch deep, and our sunflowers are about 1/2 inch or so deep. Where are they? Right there. I think these might be smaller seeds though. I might go a little less than 1/2 inch. So I'm gonna use this hoe right here just to make little furrows along the drip tape, and then we'll just drop our seeds in. Not much to see during this process, but here we go. All right, they are all done, planted, watered in. Again, in this first row, we have the sunspot sunflowers. And then in this row, we have cosmos, which I did end up making a list of the order I planted the varieties in, just because it would be nice for reference, even if I don't have labels out here. And I planted them based on height. So I started with the shortest ones first and then gradually worked my way up, although most of them are about the same size. But here are the varieties we have. Zinnia, apricota, afternoon white, rubenza, cupcakes blush, double click bicolor violet, double click rose bonbon, and double Dutch rose. That will be a beautiful row. And then we have our row of California giant zinnias, which is just a beautiful, like 36-inch tall, bright blend of color. And then in our last zinnia row, in the first row here in the cut flower garden, the one you see first when you drive up, I did the more specialty varieties, and I did list those as well. So right in the very beginning, we have all the floret varieties. So we've got Dawn Creek Blush, Dawn Creek Honey, Dawn Creek Pastels, Dawn Creek Peach, Golden Hour, Little Flower Girl, and Precious Metals. And then after those, I put in Creamy Yellow Giant Dahlia Flowered, Senorita Pink, Giant Lime, Giant Purple, Giant White, and Giant Scarlet. So really, this is just gonna be an absolute explosion of color. And we'll probably have a hard time walking down the rows, which is fine by me. We'll just harvest from the outside and it will just look absolutely gorgeous. And I'm not sure what we're gonna end up putting in the row that the ranunculus are in. We may even do like a fall crop veg in there, I'm not sure. Before we leave this spot, we really just need to take a close-up look at these containers. Spectacular pots, oh my gosh. So as our centerpiece, we have the Stratosphere White Gara. This is one of my favorite centerpiece plants over any type of grass or anything. I just think it's so magical and beautiful. And then we've surrounded it with the Campfire Marshmallow Bidens, which you can kind of see better in certain spots. You see those little white flowers popping through right here. Perfect. And then the Superbena Imperial Blue and Supertunia Bordeaux. I just don't think it gets any better than that. It's so pretty. Look at this side. You can see the Bidens a lot better. And if we cruise this way, you can see the roses looking really pretty. And more Bordeaux popping through on this one. Oh, and you can see which way the wind travels. It kind of pushed all the Gara this way. Same thing in this container too. Kind of all favors that side, but I just love these. They're so gorgeous. And I'm just gonna leave the hose strung out for now just because it's so hot now. and we've got a lot of wind coming our way that I'm gonna have to do some supplemental water just to keep the compost damp until everything comes up. But I have turned back on all of the valves for all of our drip tape, so that will run every morning, so they'll at least get a good soak in the morning. And then we'll just come through and hit these with the hose at different times of the day because I don't want to water everything else more than what's necessary. But yeah, I think this is going to be pretty. Okay, so our last job for the day is to plant all of these annuals. I do need to go water some things before I do that. I don't know what the temperature is right now. It's not horrible out today. It's 92 right now, but there's like a slight breeze some of the time that feels really nice. It was over 100 over the weekend, so 92 feels pretty good. Found a few weeds while I was at it. Okay, the greenhouse is probably screaming for a drink by now. You know what? I think I'm gonna tuck them in right here, just in this space. I don't want to go out too far. You remember last year we planted a huge amount of annuals out here, but it's possible we might be putting a gate in and some fencing in this space right here. So I don't really want to plant something that's right in the way. And I don't know if that's a project we're going to get to this year or not, but either way, I don't really want to have to run drip all the way out to that area. There's drip right here. See this right here? We can tap right into that and these annuals can be on their own zone. See the swallowtail? We have so many butterflies this year. But I think it'll be really nice to have some color, just a little pocket right here. Turned out pretty. I love the big splash of color and I like this mix too. I think the white in the back is a really pretty backdrop to these brighter colors, the bright pink and the bright yellow. Having the bright yellow in front will, I think, really highlight the plant. And then there's just this kind of river of Supertunia Vista Jazzberry. It starts over here and it does go all the way throughout. However, these plants are a little bit smaller and don't have as much color yet, but they will. It's just gonna grow together in this mass of color. Now, wouldn't it be pretty to have some Miss Violet Buddleias right in here? Dark purple butterfly bush. I love to add purple to every spot that I possibly can, and I've got some really pretty Miss Violets. I might do that. It would be really nice. But it is getting hot out here and I think I am done for the day. I'm gonna get these watered in so that they are happy. In fact, I had to put my gloves on to plant in here because the soil is so hot. When I was planting at the very end of planting our seeds, it was like burning through my knees when I was on the ground. I needed to go grab my kneeling pad, but I did use it while doing this project and my gloves because the soil is so dang hot. So I know the plants are probably hot as well. So I'm gonna give them a really good drink and then I'm gonna go inside. That is it for today, you guys. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Really nice to get, feels like a lot done today. Really happy about it. We will see you in the next one. Bye.